Okay, okay, guys. Good evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you are. So my name is Made Lovely. You can also call me Douglas or Sikemia Mercy. And please show me some love by subscribing to my YouTube channel. The channel name for my YouTube channel is Made Lovely Lifestyles. You can also follow me on Instagram at Made Lovely _RTW_design. So just go ahead to show me some love. So in this video we're going to be learning how to deconstruct a flounce. Okay, so we want to learn how to deconstruct flounces like this. They come in different shades and different patterns. Now, what does the term deconstruct means? To deconstruct means to unravel a thing. Now, we want to know what makes up this flounce. We want to know the building blocks. We want to pull this flounce apart so that we will be able to find out what makes this flounce a flounce. Now, you might say, okay, I want to use a flare to, I want to cut out a flare, then fold it into this shape and then maybe cut out the edges and all that. But through this video, you're going to see like a step-by-step guide that you don't need to go through the hassle of say, okay, let me cut a full flare, then I cut this area, don't cut this area. This will guide you to get exact measures that as soon as you apply it, you get a particular shape of flounce that you desire. So first of all, if you're very good in fashion illustration, or if you're able to picture what it is you want to achieve and you're able to transfer it to pattern paper, that's good and fine. But you would need to at least be able to recreate this style either on a pattern paper or with your mind's eyes. You will need to transfer it to a pattern paper, even if you can decipher it with your mind's eyes. So this picture is it's a draft of the flounce that I intend to achieve, which is what was seen, which is what was transferred to the yellow gown. So after drawing this pattern out on my skirt, so what I did was to break this flounce into compartments. Now if you look closely, you see the number 1, and on this number 1 I've created an outline of what this first draft looks like. That is, number 1 is where my flounce begins. Now number 1 is this. Okay, we would go further, but this is, you see number 1, then you see the compartments for number 2. If you go down, you will see where number 3 begins, and wherever you see these numbers, they all extend to the waist, but the shapes below is what is the lower portion of it, but they all have their roots from the waist, springing from the waist. So I've just tried to draw with dashed lines to explain how this is done. Now going on further, you're going to need your pattern paper, markers or pens. You need to divide your flounce into the compartments that it belongs to, and then you also need a tracing wheel. Now if you want to get pattern papers, or you want to get this tracing wheel, you can just inbox me or state your intentions under the comments, and then I would reply you on how to get or how to make an order for it. Now with this tracing wheel, what I do is I trace out. Okay, there's another pattern paper underneath this one I'm using to as a draft. So when I place this one that has the design onto the plain pattern paper, I begin to trace with my tracing wheel over the pattern that I want to transfer. Now you know that a tracing wheel is used to transfer patterns. The reason why I'm using this is so that I will be able to get this exact outline of number one onto a fresh pattern paper that I will be able to work with subsequently. Now I've traced all around the number one. That's the pattern for the first compartment, number one. So after doing that, you would see an imprint of what number one looks like on the pattern paper that has no design on it. So after I see the outline, I use my marker pen to trace it all out. That's that for number one. So for number two, you see where my tracing wheel is? That's where I start out in tracing number two of this design. Now follow me closely. So I trace out number two from one edge to the other. You start out with one edge and then you move on to the other. So we have three sides that makes up the compartment for number two. That's how it's broken down. It's three sides. You've seen me have marked out on this end where you see the tracing wheel facing, and then the edge, this other edge, and the other edge. So after doing that, this is the shape I get. So I continue like this, and then I go through the same procedure for all of the compartments. That's from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I do the same thing. I trace them out. Now this is the finished look by the time I trace them out to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is how they all come out. Now after tracing them out into the patterns, like for example this number two, I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I get the patterns that I desire. What I do is I lay them all together like this. Now this is just one process. Now going on further, when I lay each one against each other, this is what I get. Now I've placed one underneath two, underneath 3, 4, 5, and 6. This is the final outlook. So what I do is I place it in a way that, okay, ordinarily if I had laid them out like this, it would not have turned out the way that I actually intended. Like if I lay them out the way you're seeing it in this picture, it will not give me the exact outcome that I desire. So what I do is laid out like this. This is how I want it to look. So I pin each compartment in such a way that by the time I'm done, I would have this outcome. So this is how I made it. Instead of, okay, you're seeing the drafts for number one is turned upside down. Let me just get that back. So you're seeing that it's turned upside down, and it, as in the number one is not facing me anymore. Then you see that I place it against the compartment for two, and then I use an office pin to pin that down. So you see that by the time you turn one underneath number two, you have the beginning of that design that we intended. So it's the same thing I did. Number three, is not the number three is not facing me, it's facing the table, and then number four is facing me. The same goes. The thing is, you just arrange it in a way that by the time you're done, folding, it will give you the design that you actually intended. So going on further, this is another picture of it. So going on further, this is where I laid it out onto the fabric I want to use for the design. So since I've gotten the layout I wanted, I just place it onto the fabric that I want to use. So what I do is I will then cut this out, but the important thing to note is that at each point where one part joins the other, like at the point where number one joins number two, you have to make a notch. Now you're making this notch so that by the time you want to lay them on each other, you know where the edges fall. You know where one begins and ends. You know where two begins and ends. So you ensure that you make your notches. So this is, okay, let me zoom in closely so that you will see my notches. At each point, number one, two, and all that, you see me making a notch. So this is how it looks by the time I'm done. This is how it looks on the fabric. So what I do is I will then remove the pattern paper and then just fold on each other. Okay, so this is what I used to finally give me this outlook. So you can use this principle and apply to even the other picture that comes with this video. That's the first one I uploaded. You can use it to apply and do whatever flounce it is that you desire to do. So please remember that we have a course and it's just 400 naira to teach you about getting ebooks, any ebook on pattern drafting or fashion as a whole. It's cheap. Please patronize us. So thank you very much. I hope you got value from this video. Thank you very much.